Welcome to Digital Twin Podcasts. Today we will talk about ERP and how to actually implement the functionalities of ERP step by step. Digital Twin Podcast is a place where technology and business is going hand in hand.
If you are thinking about digitalizing your company, you found the right place.
Podcast is hosted by Adrian Stelmach, consultant who implements IT solutions for manufacturing companies.
And Paul Pachowicz, industrial digitalization expert, who helps global companies to optimize production processes. Yes, this is episode number 27. I'm super proud of you, Adrian.
Thank you.
That we managed 27 episodes. I think the digital transformation needs us so much because there's not a lot of people sharing that kind of knowledge. So episode number 27 we'll talk about the ERP and the implementation. What are we focusing on before we do the recap of the previous episode? What are we focusing on for this one? How to implement different functionalities. What else?
Yeah, because if we think about ERPs, it could be like the biggest challenge in actually company history to implement this size of a system. So we recorded some episodes before, but today we will talk about step-by-step process, how to go from idea of ERP implementation till the final tests and running the maintenance. So actually this episode is divided for two episodes because there's a lot of content. So yeah, I don't think we can manage it in one.
Is there like a secret recipe, secret Adrian's recipe that you will be sharing with us?
Yeah, sure. That's the goal. to show off all of the cards,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Then now we know what's gonna happen in this one. Let's briefly summarize the previous episode as we always do.
Yeah, the I will say that this is the final step of our ERP journey for at least a while. Previously, we talked about what ERP actually is, what is the business goal for implementing such a software, how does it work, what kind of modules it have, and so on. And today we will talk about a specific process, an example of a process which I'm using on my day-to-day work, working with customers regarding to implementing IT system in general, but we will focus on ERP specifically.
Yeah, sure. So I'm guessing there's steps to this, right? If you're thinking on step-by-step in the plan, that starts with the concept and then ends up with implementation. I'm guessing we should start with definition and definition of goals and requirements, and is that something that companies are aware of, or they just thinking we need an ERP, and then they find three different offers from three different companies, and then they choose between those offers, but they didn't spend the time and actually work on the definition of goals and requirements. How does that look like in real life?
I think every company have to understand one thing, that every time that you are putting on your board a new vendor, a new company which you want to start work with, every time you need to spend some time on assessment. There is always the biggest issue is to how transfer the knowledge from people who wants to have a system to solve the problem or whatever they want to do to people who can actually solve them. So assessment phase, definition of goals, requirements, and real issues and problem, it's always the first phase of every single project. Of course, if it's a simple project, you can take just one day, one meeting, or few meetings, and that's it. And it's enough to prepare an offer and prepare a specification. But if we are talking about digital transformation of a manufacturing company, let's say, which let's say have like 100 employees, you cannot do it in one day. I mean, you can, but there's a lot of loopholes which can be, you know, can appear in meanwhile, which just will be, you know, the entire process could be not effective if you don't put a lot of work into assessment and assessment phase.
Yeah, and it's when I started my digitalization journey, I expected that what you describe is the standard,
Yeah.
but then the reality kind of came in, and I understood that this is not a standard. Unfortunately, some companies are approaching this as this is like a one size fits all solution, which is not great. So also, I think in this first step that you described, it's important to run this gap analysis. The gap analysis, in terms of where the company currently is and where they think they would be after they implement the ERP system, and kind of help them understand if this is even possible, how much time that would take, that it's not going to be next month probably, and all that. So it's kind of like this kind of gap analysis explains that explains that what they know is most likely not all the way true. So you have to align your knowledge and their knowledge, and then you become partners in this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say that we have all that done, and the second step would be choosing the provider and choosing the ERP software.
Yeah.
How they not like created equal all the IT solutions. They are designed for different industries and businesses, for different sizes of companies. And then let's say that I have to make this decision, and I have 3 different offers, 5 different offers, and all the salespeople are telling me that their solution is perfect for me. How do you make sense out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, I will just comment one thing before
Mm-hmm.
that, because sometimes people, most of the big companies, big players which have 1,000 employees and more, for sure they have ERP already. Maybe they think about upgrading to a different one which fits better, their current size and so on. But smaller players, like let's say a company's size like 100 employees, they're thinking, okay, is that really necessary to implement stuff like that? So obviously there's a lot of technologies, a lot of IT systems which are not necessary for smaller companies, especially if there are requirements of their of people that they are buying from. Their it's are not fitting those systems. But if you consider ERP, let's just make let's play with numbers for a while. Let's say you have a company which have 100 employees. So probably you're spending like, let's say, 300,000 euros per month on paychecks, if you consider like the real costs of you as a company, not net costs which people have on their accounts. Let's say that ERP can help each of those people to just save half an hour, right? Just half an hour a day. So 1/16 of the entire time of 8-hour shift. So we are talking about around 200,000 euros per year in savings. And you can buy a ERP for a 100 company for less. Yeah, so keep that in mind. So just for a short introduction. But now, after you say, okay, that fits, 200,000 euros sounds good. After you define the goals and requirements, and it could, as I said, it could take 1 week, it could take 1 month. But in the end of the day, of the first step, you have a specific, I would say, transformation map. and you have some goals which you want to achieve. And now the second step will be to choose what tools will help you to fit those needs and to achieve those goals.
Yeah, I want to talk about the tools. You did a little intro. Played with numbers. But this is a serious question, that a lot of buying committees have to make, right?
Yep.
They're meeting with different vendors. They're looking at their case studies, but they are there's no way for them. I mean, there is way for them to make the rational decision, but how can we bring in value there? When they have to choose the right provider, the right software, and they hear that all the softwares are good for them, because that's the salespeople that are visiting them. What else they gonna say? They're gonna say that the solution that they're selling is perfect. It's unbelievable. It's gonna change your life. Not always true. And with a lot of different pieces of software, it's possible to run like demos. It's possible to have like discovery phase, and maybe like a proof of concept phase. Is this possible? Is this a possible scenario? To try it out with different vendors when you're thinking of ERP implementation, or the ERP is just too broad to actually have a proof of concept with in regards of implementation.
When you are in a phase that you are choosing a right vendor or a right, software company, you should ask yourself first, because if you consider transportation, let's compare it to something as a real life example. Let's say you want to travel from the place you're in the other place, which is like 100 kilometers, right? You can do it in different ways, right? You can, hire a helicopter, you can go by foot, you can travel with a bicycle, you can buy a car and go there, you can take a train, and so on. So on the first phase, you define all of those problems. And the problem is that you want to go from point A to point B. And choosing an ERP as a software which is solving those problems means that you already choose a car, right? And choosing the right software or a right vendor is choosing a specific brand of a car. So you have to ask yourself on the first step, what kind of car do you want and how much you want to spend on it? Because you can travel those 100 kilometers on a, Renault or Fiat, and you can go with Tesla, Mercedes, BMW, or Ferrari, right? You will achieve this goal probably if it's a new car. But so this is the first question, right? What kind of budget you have in your head? And this is really helpful because it's, if you spend time testing vendors which for sure you will not take them, maybe it's a good training, but maybe in the same time it could be a wasting of time.
Yeah, but my question is, because I'm really trying to think as the people making decisions. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know the differences. Maybe Ferrari is more expensive. Maybe it's an overkill for what I need, but I still need to make the decision. And when I'm looking at Fiat Panda and then I'm looking at Ferrari, I can tell the difference. But when I'm looking at two different softwares, how can I tell the difference? I cannot, right? It's not that easy because it's not tangible. And then the screenshots and the animations and videos, they can look great, right? But I'm still not gonna really know which one to choose unless I maybe get in touch with an external company that can help me validate if this particular ERP system is good for my organization. So maybe we can just leave it there. And if people watching or listening are interested in how to choose the right one, it's so complicated that we strongly recommend that you talk to a third party before making that decision.
That's true.
So maybe let's go to point number 3, which is planning and and budgeting, right?
Yep.
Because okay, we need help, figuring out which ERP software will be good for us. But now the planning and budgeting comes in. The planning and budgeting should be number 2 or number 3, because we are talking about it as number 3.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about number three because it's the same. I'll make the same comparison as a car. On the second step, we are talking about what kind of car do we want? Is it like a premium car or like a smaller car? Like, so you're thinking about, on the first step, you're thinking about Fiat or BMW, Mercedes, Tesla, and so on. On the third step, you know already that you're choosing BMW, Tesla, Mercedes, Audi, and stuff like that, maybe Porsche and other things, and you're choosing between them, right? So you already know the scale of the budgeting, but now you are just choosing between something which is on the same level regarding to costs. And if you think about planning budgeting, you have to think also about broader context of digitalization, right? So what I'm trying to say that implementing ERP probably will need you to change some other things in your company as well. Probably you have to do some, change some kind of processes which are being done right now. Probably people who are writing things down on paper, they'll stop doing that. They'll start doing it in ERP, or maybe there will be some automatization needed in the meanwhile. But in the end of the third step, you have to think about total cost of ownership, right? Because budgeting is not only paying for a third party as an assessment phase. And as you said before, we really recommend to pay a third party for assessment phase to do it correctly. But then you have to pay for the software. Probably you'll pay it as a software as a service, monthly fee. Then you have to pay for implementation. There's also costs regarding to architecture. Maybe you need to buy some hardware for that, like servers, computers, and stuff like that. And in the end, you have to have maintenance. So on the end of the third step, you need to have the total cost of ownership.
Okay. So basically, the ERP is a part of a larger digitalization journey,
Yeah,
right? So this size of solution and the complexity of that solution, we have to anticipate that this will potentially disrupt our business a little bit, but also it will change the way we think and will actually accelerate the business evolution. But it can be disruptive because, like you said, there will be people that are used to doing things in a certain way,
yeah,
and it's not gonna be done the same way. So they have to kind of adjust and understand that that this is the new way, and they have to understand why this is the new way. Because if they don't, they will be in the way of the proper implementation.
yeah. And also, I want to add one thing because on these phases, like first, second, and third, you have to think about your final goal. So let's say you want to implement ERP in 10 different plants or 10 different offices on 10 different brands. You have to budget, you have to assess, budget, and plan those final goal. After a while, you're doing plan how to achieve that after maybe months, years, to make it as safe as it's possible. So start with one module in one plant and then roll out, right? And this is the time to start doing that.
Sure. So we just spoke about the fact. So let's move to number 4.
Yeah,
Which is like training and communication with the key stakeholders and key users of the system. We just mentioned that if they are not aligned, if they don't understand why those changes happened, they might be a blocker of the whole implementation process. So, and I think this is where change management comes in, which is a crucial part if you're talking about changing the environment for for the people that used to do the work. So I know that the part of your process is, talking to probably as many people as possible, like on different levels, making sure that they do understand how this change will benefit them. So they're not looking at it as a threat. They're looking at this as something that will help them improve the quality of their work and stuff like that. Is this your approach that you are actually? Sometimes it's difficult to imagine that you're, let's say, a person responsible for implementing ERP system for that company, and you still feel like you need to talk to people working at the production line, for example. Is that
Yeah.
something that you do?
Yes, I think as you mentioned, change management is crucial regarding to any like digital implementation. But for ERP, because of the size of the project, because of the complexity, it's very important to start talking to people. Start trainings of from the as the layer of the hierarchy in the company goes. So you start with the key stakeholders, then you go to some key managers, then you talk to people on the production lines, because all of those people will be involved. You want to have it on your board regarding to this ERP implementation. So yes, and short answer is yes. I'm trying to talk as many people as possible. I'm starting to communicate in the entire process. I'm also trying to start communicating with stakeholders that you guys, you are thinking about ERP for a while. Probably you have figured out a lot of things, but you have to know that other people in your company doesn't have this knowledge that you have, because you are living in this bubble. So start communicating, start talking to people. You want to have this implementation as smooth as possible, and to make it smooth as possible, you have to have those people with you. And you can ask for you can make a survey, you can make trainings, you can ask people for their needs. Maybe they have some problems that the system can help them solve. And meanwhile, and you can every one of people in the company can achieve their own goals as well. So yes, training and change management, it's a crucial part. I would say the most important part regarding to ERP implementation.
Yeah, so we can eliminate the resistance, and
Yeah.
then let's switch to number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5, which talks about the point number 5 of this process, is configuration and customization of the ERP system. And it would be interesting for me to understand the differences between like off-the-shelf solution and then custom solution. I'm guessing that the off-the-shelf solution is not really perfectly aligned, with the business, because it's an off-the-shelf solution, so it has to be good for all the businesses. So also there's a lot of things missing there, probably, right? So the customization of those modules, to be able to reflect, certain very unique scenarios for that company. But one thing to remember here, that if you do this customization, the more you are trying to customize using off-the-shelf solution, the more you are creating challenges for the future. So even if you are using this off-the-shelf solution, and you are doing everything to customize it, it has to be balanced, because if you do it too much, then you will create problems for yourself in the future. Would you agree?
Uh, yeah, more customization makes that there's more things which weren't tested anywhere else, right?
Yep.
So it's very important to customize the application regarding to people needs. in the end of the day, but you have to balance that wisely, right? Um, in the backend side, it's good to use some modules which are tested in many places. But in the front end side, so the side which actually is communicating with people, what humans see regarding to working with system, it's good to make sure that it will be good fit for them, because probably they get used to some kind of solution which was worse before. Maybe they were used to some kind of spreadsheets, specific spreadsheets, some kind of documents, and this customization phase should mainly focus on the human part, and every vendor should calculate some time, especially if it's a customized solution, because as you said before, if it's off-the-shelf solution, there's no much time and no much space and no much money for customization. But you should know that on the first step, or second, as we talk today, we in previous episodes, I recommend maybe someone to check if you want. We talk about differences between different kinds and different classes of solutions. But yeah, in the fifth step, the most important thing is to actually balance between customization and already made modules.
Yes. And this is the sixth step, which would be final step for today. The testing and validation of the solution, and that we have recently implemented. And I would divide that into three different phases. And then please tell me if you do the same thing or you do it differently, because you have your secret sauce and special way of approaching this. So the first step of the sixth step would be to test individual modules of this IT solution, and then maybe like integrated testing, to ensure that all the modules are working correctly. So first we test modules, and then we test if those modules can actually talk to each other, and if that's creating any the disruptance, and then finally we should probably move to UAT, which is user acceptance testing, which is the phase that we are actually having actual systems users using the system, and feeding us with with the real, like, real-time feedback, feedback based on how this is actually going to work. So I think those three steps are crucial, and they just the basic steps. Do you have like different kind of options or recommendations here, but those three steps?
Yeah, those steps are good, but what I will add in this sixth point, I would say, first of all, you should have like a test system where you can test things, functionalities, and stuff like that before you're implementing an on production system. This is very important.
Like test
because
environment?
Yeah, like a test environment, exactly. So let's say you are testing a new functionality and someone tell you, okay, let's change this screen to something else. You should implement it first in a test environment, then you are implementing it in the final environment. So this is like my first thing which I want to add here. Second thing would be that it is very important also to think since like day one or since step one, but the sixth step is crucial, to have the maintenance team on board of this on this step, because if you are testing some things, it means that probably there will be changes. Probably there's some other outcome from if you consider like from documentation point of view. So the maintenance team, which will maintenance this system after you finish the implementation, it could be the same team who is implementing, but it could be like a way different team, and they have to align on this phase as well, especially in this phase if you are like implementing things, because the sixth phase, testing and validating phase, is the phase that you have the biggest chaos going on, right? Because everything was planned and now there are a lot of changes and you have to keep up with them. So this is very important as well. Also, if you consider testing validating phase, you have to ask yourself, just steps before we did that on a planning step, like what exactly you are implementing and what exactly you are testing. I mean, if you are doing like a pilot project on just one module of ERP, or you are doing 3 modules in the same time, right? And it is wise that your digital transformation roadmap have like 10 or 12 or 20 steps when you are implementing modules. You're learning after the implementation of each module, and you're agile and adjusting for the second phase, for the second module, and for the next steps to have this knowledge, because user experiences could be the same on each of the steps, and you have to adjust that.
Sure. I think as an expert, I would say that it's important to have a process for this last part, right? So
Yeah.
whenever you're about to finish the implementation, and if it's 2 different companies that one is implementing it and one is supposed to be responsible for the maintenance, you need to have a process. You need to like figure out the process, or you need to maybe work with the company that will be maintaining your the implemented solution, and figure out maybe they have a process for that. So this is one of the factors that I would consider when choosing a company that is going to support the IT system that you just implemented. So if they don't have a process for that, you should work together and figure out one process that would enable seamless onboarding of that partner that will help with the maintenance. Yeah. So I think this is good. It was a heavy episode, all those elements. Like I think we did a good job explaining those, but still there was just a lot of information that I think if you look at it, if you listen to it, then you should not be probably making decisions on your own. Maybe asking third party company, just to help you make the right decision. But overall, it's pretty good, and then I think we can just stop here and invite our listeners and viewers to the next episode, which would be the 28th episode, and we'll talk in more details about this step-by-step plan of implementing ERP.
Yeah, those others. There are other steps ongoing, so we are just halfway away.
Yep.
Yeah. So keep in touch, I guess.
Yeah, stay tuned, and then if you wonder what is the part 2, you'll find out in the next episode. So thank you for today, and see you next week.
Thank you. See you.